Oh, hell, Internet, and spontaneously, but also motivated by the fact that I am not getting on quite as quickly with the next Kant video as I would have liked, I'm going to do another chapter of the Analects. This is chapter 4, written by Confucius around 500 BC, he said, not having looked it up for a while. You know how that is. And I'm just going to read through the aphorisms, and I'm going to, well, I've given them a star rating, and I'm going to see if I agree with that off the top of my head. As always, doing this as somebody who does not come from the Chinese cultural tradition, and I'm not doing it in the original Chinese, where the positioning of the characters and things like that carries some additional subtle implications, so I'm not getting any of that. So take all that on board as well. But yes, book 4 is called Concerning Virtue. The master said, "It is the moral character of a neighborhood that constitutes its excellence, and how can he be considered wise who does not elect to dwell in normal surroundings?" Okay, I'm gonna have to... Since I started making videos, I've actually had to start wearing reading glasses, so let's just go back to that. Ha ha. So, I've starred this at 2, but I think I'm going to put it up. But the note here is significant. I've written, I mean, sure, but do people have a choice, especially if they are observing proper decorum to their ancestors? The note is not written in the same pen as the 2-star rating, though. The moral character of a neighborhood that constitutes its excellence. There's definitely a sense in which I'm also considering the idea of a community, and that community in the modern world is definitely something we have to think about. And I've just seen a video today by Peter Coffin talking about the nature of the modern world and its lack of community. So that, I think, makes this aphorism hit a little harder. But yes, people, if they live in a certain neighborhood, sometimes they are not actually able to escape from that neighborhood or leave it practicably due to opportunities or loyalties or such and such a thing. So I'm only going to go 3 stars with this, and I'm not going to spend as long on all of these. The master said, "A man without virtue cannot long abide in adversity, nor can he long abide in happiness. But the virtuous man is at rest in virtue, and the wise man covets it." I'm giving this 2 stars as well. I'm going to stick with that. I think there's a touch of victim blaminess about this one. It's like, well, if you have consistent switching between problems and brief periods of happiness or whatever, then that's something you're doing wrong. A man without virtue. I'm sure I'm not getting the full nuance of what is meant by this, but anyway, 2 stars. The master said, "Only the virtuous are competent to love or hate men." I've given this 3 stars, and yes, I think it's got a certain timelessness. Oh, I forgot to introduce the rating system, and I can't look it up right now. What is it? TICS. Is it timeless? Is it inarguable? You know, does it have like mic drop energy, and is it concise, and is it specific? That's it. And this one's definitely concise, and it's definitely, well, I think it's got that timeless energy as well. Only the virtuous are competent to love or hate men. So I'm retroactively putting this down to 2 stars again, I think, because it does have, as I will mention about one of the aphorisms later, a monotheistically exceptional streak. In other words, only the virtuous can make that final judgment on what is to be loved and hated. Well, that's nice for them, isn't it? However, in another one of the aphorisms, in 2 or 3 times, you will see there's another point to be made, and I'll jump in again then. Anyway, next, the master said, "He who has really set his mind on virtue will do no evil." 1 star. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's just too black and white, and although certain other ones I think are presented as being black and white, I think that's only sort of apparently so. There's always a mixture of grey in there, but will do no evil. I think that's a little bit too stark for me. Next, the master said, wealth and rank are what men desire, but unless they are obtained in the right way, they may not be possessed. Poverty and obscurity are what men detest, but unless prosperity be brought about in the right way, they are not to be abandoned. If a man of honour forsakes virtue, how is he to fulfil the obligations of his name? A man of honour never disregards virtue, even for the space of a single meal. In moments of haste he cleaves to it. In seasons of peril he cleaves to it. Cleave in the sense of grasp and hold on to, ironically opposite to the other meaning you might be familiar with. I put this as 3 stars. I'm not sure I agree. I think I'm going down to 2. It's certainly not concise. It's also a little bit obscure in the way it's written. Wealth and rank are what men desire, but unless they are obtained in the right way, they may not be possessed. Poverty and obscurity are what men detest, but unless prosperity be brought about in the right way, they are not to be abandoned. So it's like reversing the mode of the argument halfway through. Maybe there's a reason for that, I don't know. But the idea that any kind of virtue, any kind of abandonment of virtue is a serious flaw. But I think it's maybe, if I'm going to try and steel man it, it's to try and create a kind of culture of virtuosity. And in that case, 3 stars doesn't seem so bad. Go on then. The master said, the master said, I have never seen one who loved virtue, nor one who hated what was not virtuous. He who loved virtue would esteem nothing above it, and he who hated what is not virtuous would himself be so virtuous that he would allow nothing evil to adhere to him. Is there anyone able for a single day to devote his strength to virtue? I have never seen one whose ability would be sufficient. If perchance there be such, I have never seen him. A little verbose there. I've written a rather verbose, nobody's perfect. And yes, nobody's perfect is a lot more concise. I've given this 1 star, and I'll stick with it. Yeah, there's no need to take that long to say that little, in essence, I suppose.
So yes, I gave this 1 star, but this is the one that I referred to before, where it can change the meaning of some others if you look at it a certain way. If you assume that nobody's perfect, then the meaning of the earlier aphorism saying that only the virtuous are able to judge what is to be loved and hated, or something like that, then nobody becomes the judge of what is to be loved or hated, because nobody is perfect, nobody is truly virtuous, quote unquote. So combining some of these aphorisms does give different implications, and of course there are different ways of looking at all of this, as there are with many of these ancient texts.
The master said, a man's faults all conform to his type of mind. Observe his faults, and you may know his virtues. 3 stars. Yeah, I can't exactly justify this one particularly. Faults conform to his type of mind. Observe his faults, and you may know his virtues. Yeah, I mean, character observation, I suppose this is all about that as well. Next, the master said, he who heard the truth in the morning might die content in the evening. I've given this 2 stars. It does have a timelessness, but I don't know, I think, and it's concise, but I think that's all it has. Which truth? How are you dying? But I don't know, there's obviously, again, the link between a certain truth and a satisfaction with one's condition, maybe, I don't know. Okay. So yeah, 2 stars for that one. Next, the master said, the student who aims at wisdom and yet who is ashamed of shabby clothes and poor food is not yet worthy to be discoursed with. Cast off your wanting, I've said. And I've given this 5 stars. No, it's definitely not 5 stars. It's 4 stars maybe, but it's against the sin of pride, I guess you could say, in another concise fashion. And I guess I probably gave it 5 stars because I'm absolutely intent on never dressing well or being bothered about my appearance and so on. I mean, occasionally I'll have a garment which is like, oh, that's nice, and like this shirt, for example, but I'll use it in a fairly unconventional way. So, okay, the next one. The master said, the wise man in his attitude towards the world has neither predilections nor prejudices. He is on the side of what is right. Neither predilections nor prejudices. He is on the side of what is right. I've given this 1 star, and I think I'm sticking with that. It's got a monotheistic exceptionalist streak, if you know what I mean. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you might know what I mean. But basically, yeah, the idea that in monotheism specifically, I would always say, but in other ideologies around the world, it occasionally becomes the case that, the side that we are on is the one that has the right God, and so we are always right by definition. And let's just say that hasn't led to the most positive of results under every case. Next up, the master said, the man of honor thinks of his character, the inferior man of his position. The man of honor desires justice, the inferior man favor. I've given this 4 stars. I have a strong urge to boost it to 5 in the light of the way the world is going on at the moment. I mean, just the idea that toadying up to power is the way to get ahead is just a thought for me. But hey, we don't get much demonstrations to the contrary. Many demonstrations to the contrary at this time. Next up, the master said, he who works for his own interests will arouse much animosity. I've given this 4 stars. Now I'm feeling like downgrading this one to 3, because it seems like that's not always true, again, in the light of the world today. And there are those that are, shall we say, Teflon, that aren't always arousing the animosity that one would think that they should. Okay, the master said, is a prince able to rule his country with courtesy and deference? Then what difficulty will he have? Suggesting none, I think, or little. And if he cannot rule his country with courtesy and deference, what use are the forms of courtesy to him? I've given it 2 stars, and I've noted that 2 stars, lucky is lucky, at the same time. Lucky is lucky. I guess, what use are the forms of courtesy to? I don't know where lucky is lucky comes from now. Just to see if things will hit you differently, different times that you read it. There's a certain Machiavellian about quality to how a prince, maybe the word prince is part of it, of course, but if he runs his country with courtesy and deference, that will apparently be a good thing. And certainly if you can afford to look like you're being magnanimous and kind under all circumstances, that would be, I would say, Machiavelli's ideal situation for a prince running a country. So, I don't know, 2 stars, 3 stars? Call it 2, stick with that. The master said, one should not be concerned at lack of position, but should be concerned about what will fit him to occupy it. What will fit him to occupy? What position it will fit the person in question to occupy, I think. One should not be concerned at being unknown, but one should seek to be worthy of being known. I've given it 4 stars. I see no reason to disagree. It's not so concise, but I suppose, it does say something very important, though. Yeah, 4 stars. Okay. The master said, Shen, my teaching contains one all-pervading principle. Yes, replied Zheng Su. When the master had left the room, the disciples asked, what did he mean? Zheng Su replied, our master's teaching is simply this, conscientiousness within and consideration for others. I've given this one 2 stars and said, but why? And I guess that's true, but I think I want to give it 3 stars. It's not the most concise, but I like the principle, conscientiousness within and consideration for others. It is a good thing to aspire to, and it, considered as that last principle, it definitely is concise. it captures the very not saying either Christianity or Confucianism were aware of this, but there's that very Christian link of service to others, or sorry, the New Testament kind of link, but still. And then the master said, the wise man is informed in what is right. The inferior man is informed in what will pay. 5 question mark? Yeah, again, I've labelled it 5, but with a question mark, and I'm going to say 4. And I think my biases are certainly put here. What have I written here? The inferior man is concerned with labour, question mark? That's the Arentian sort of idea. But no, that's not really... Well, there's a rabbit hole there, and I'm not going to fully go into it now. But, yeah, on where does money fall? I guess it's in the realm of work. I guess that money falls within the realm of work in the middle, and therefore, but what will pay, on the other hand, given money can become part of a sort of resource-based economy where you need money as a resource in order to live, then I guess it does have that labor sort of element as well. What are you doing? Hey? Yes, gotcha. Hello. Whoa. Okay. Next, the master said, when you see a man of worth, think how to rise to his level. When you see an unworthy man, then look within and examine yourself. 4 stars again. And yeah, as I said, to be sure, within you something is unworthy. There's nobody's perfect, and it makes sense to always. Again, there are plenty of Abrahamic equivalents to that sort of thing. There, but for the grace of God go I, is one off the top of the head. So yeah, 4 stars. Seek to correct yourself rather than seeking to feel superior. I've also written, absolutely. And dear Christians and Muslims and Jews very often, did you know that in the Buddhist morality, it is a specific point that you are breaking the morality if you consider yourself to be superior to anyone else because of your morality? Isn't that interesting? The master said, in his duty to his parents, a son may gently remonstrate with them. If he sees that they are not inclined to yield, he should be increasingly respectful, but not desist. And though they deal hardly with him, he must not complain. So, not desist. That's it. I've given this 2 stars, but I'm just noticing the 2 words not desist is... Actually, I'm going to bump it. I'm going to bump it all the way up to 4 stars. I think there's quite a subtle cultural point here, although, of course, I may well be missing something. But in the filial sort of culture of China and other parts of the Far East and Southeast Asia, there is a sense of the parents and the elders, the elder generation, quite Aristotelian, I suppose, in a way, but it being absolutely able to make the judgments and take command and in that regard. But it does say here, you can bring up your points, and you can continue to, you must try and be ever more respectful, but you can not desist. You can never give up trying to change their minds. Although it then says, if they deal hardly in response, you must not complain. So yeah, there is that as well. 4 stars, 3 stars, 3 stars. Final answer. The master said, the age of one's parents should ever be kept in mind as an occasion at once for joy and for fear. 3 stars again, yes, okay. And the joy because they are still here for that time, and fear because the longer they are here, the sooner it will be in absolute terms that they are no longer here. Yeah. The master said, the men of old were reserved in speech out of shame, lest they come short in deed. The men of old were reserved in speech out of shame, lest they should come short in deed. The men of old, who are we referring to? People who are old in 3 to 500 BC. So I mean the original dynasties. Reserved in speech out of shame, lest they should come short indeed. I've given it 3 stars. I don't know about that. Not quite sure it. To be reserved in speech out of shame, as in to not say that you can achieve any more than you think you can achieve, lest they should come short indeed. You don't actually get to achieve it. I don't know. I'll stick with 2 stars for that one. And 2 stars for this one. The master said the self-restrained seldom err. Orally. I've put orally. Oh, really? In there. And I've given it 2 stars. But no, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 words. The self-restrained seldom err. Or is it 8 words? But either way, no, it's definitely concise. It's quite timeless. I think it's fair. No, what was I thinking? 2 stars? No. 5 stars. Clearly. Seldom err. I mean, I suppose the self-restrained can be a little overcautious, should we say? And when you're overcautious and miss an opportunity, could that be said to err? It's a little bit of a hair-splitting operation. But yeah, I think, well, it's enough to bring it down to 4 stars, put it that way. But it's 4 stars it is. The master said, the wise man desires to be slow to speak, but quick to act. Good. Yes, definitely quick to act. I suffer from, I think, a sense of dithering, which means I miss out on things sometimes. And it's been a constant bugbear for me overall. Not to say that I am not happy with where I've come to in many ways, but yeah. And finally, the master said, virtue never dwells alone, it always has neighbours. The gentleman is a social creature, I've written, or, again later on, possibly at the same time as the rating, virtues come together, or virtue cannot exist without others, other virtues, I suppose that is. I've labelled it 5 stars. Virtue never dwells alone. It always has neighbours. 5 stars? I guess there's quite a lot of depth. With all of those different interpretations have slightly different meanings and stuff, I suppose. So, yeah, go on. Give it 5 stars. And that is the last of book 4, which was Concerning Virtue. With a dash of filial piety in there, which I suppose is a virtue. But yes, you can always be sure that the chapter names in the Analects are more of a guideline than a rule as to what the content of the chapter is. Alright, well, I hope you've enjoyed that. Remember, it's all entirely off the top of my head and without any special expertise. But still, like the video if you did enjoy it, and I'll maybe see you whenever the next chapter comes out, which will be who knows when. Bye for now.